First of all, thanks very much for joining us. This is the first, hopefully, in a few of our getting to know our customers features, but delighted that we're able to be joined by two of our longest standing and most presentable customers, David Whitmore and Richard Hill from Ibex Insurance. David and Richard, welcome. Would you mind maybe just giving a brief introduction of yourselves and explaining, when you joined Ibex and a bit of your history there before we start with a few quick cut and fire questions from me and Nigel here?
Absolutely. David, take the floor first.
Well, probably over 19 years ago, I joined Ibex to basically run the claims department. And 19 years ago, I was also told a lie that the insurance business was a great business to join, and I was only going to be there for 6 months, but I ended up being there for 19 years. So I'm now a director of Ibex, and I've been for the last 15 years, and continue to do so.
Okay, so yeah, similar story to David's really. I don't think anyone intentionally intends to join the insurance industry, or I've not met that many people that have wanted to do that, as a student or young person. But I fell into it. So my story was that I came over to Gibraltar in 2002, and in 2003 I was living below our then chairman and majority shareholder of the business. And I used to go out and have a drink on my terrace, as you do in this part of the world of an evening. He'd be having a drink on his terrace, and we'd get chatting. Small world that Gibraltar is. I knew David, used to go out drinking with him on a Friday night when we were much younger and less grey in those days. I joined as financial controller in March 2004, and currently hold the title of managing director. And like David, been a director of Ibex now for 15 years, and we are joint shareholders of the business as well now.
Very good. And so basically you fell into it through drink, is what I take.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's still a problem.
So that's how you got into insurance, a little bit by accident, and you're probably right. I think very few people put their hand up and say, I want to be in insurance going through school and university, but here we are now. Is there maybe 3 things that you would be interested in changing to make the insurance market a better industry? Do you have ideas that you can see innovating insurance and bringing it forward?
Absolutely. For me, there's a couple of things I feel really strongly about. So one thing for sure would be allowing all UK and Gibraltar firms unfettered access to the EU market and vice versa, because that's been a big problem for us here, because previously we operated out of Gibraltar and passported our license into Spain and Portugal, and we're obviously not allowed to do that now as Ibex. So we've had to create a subsidiary company in Portugal which looks after our Portuguese and Spanish business. It's not been such a big deal, but it does cost money and just adds to the administrative burden of the business. So that certainly would be my number 1 point. I think as well, I look at where I think insurance, I think is a great industry. I've loved my last 17 years working within the industry, but it does have a little bit of a bad reputation. And I think what has happened to banking, we should look at that and learn from that maybe. And I just feel that we're going down the same route. So there's mass consolidation going off, and there's mass commoditization, certainly of the product lines that we work in. And that's not always best. I don't think personally that's always best for the client, because what it does mean is you become the product designer, becomes further and further away from the client, and getting to see somebody face to face is virtually non-existent. Now in the markets that we work in, it's still about 20 or 30 years behind, if you like, the UK and Ireland. So we're a bit luckier in that respect. But the way I see it going in the UK and Ireland, I think we're in danger of going down the banking route, which I'm not a big fan of, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Do you think though that there's the opportunity there to introduce, you know, that customer facing and that being able to help the customer with their really specific needs is actually an area of the market that could be something that you can take and run with, where other people are sort of racing to do the cheapest, you know, everything else.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? So it's a real double-edged sword, because we've had so much pressure on pricing, you know, over the last 10, 20, 30 years, that, you know, our average premiums, you know, are falling on personal lines products. And, you know, we've seen that in the 20 years that we've operated. So you're living off thinner margins. So in many respects, you want to consolidate and cut some costs out of your business. But I don't think that's necessarily a great thing to do. Maybe the last 18 months and doing what we're doing now and being on screen with maybe customers, particularly when it comes to, you know, claims or complex policy arrangements, maybe that's something that we could adopt and then get around that. But I think it's very easy to hide behind emails, and I think picking the phone up and speaking to people, or doing a call like this, or meeting people face to face, is the best thing that you can do for customer service experience, which is kind of getting on to another question that I know you're going to ask.
Oh yeah, I should point out.
To be on that point, it's kind of a rebalance of some of the compliance requirements we're being pushed onto us, and something we were discussing earlier about, you know, for example, with a complaint, you're told that you've got to report every expression of dissatisfaction of a client. In doing that, you end up having to then, on a daily basis, report everything to the regulator or on a register, and that stops you kind of like really providing the service to the client. I think compliance has gone too far in some areas. Don't get me wrong, regulatory compliance, great thing, treating the customer fairly, but I think it's gone a bit too far. So for me, that's one of the things in some areas which could do with a rebalance.
Sure. And do you think that, I suppose, yeah, one of the questions I was coming to was, you know, what do you think constitutes that excellent customer service? Is it the being able to handle with the dissatisfied customer well, or is it, you know, giving that special service all round?
Well, I think and we've got, you know, with our team here, both customer service and claims handlers, it's having the people that really want to do the job and really want to, you know, deliver what we say we deliver. You know, holding the client's hand, you know, being friendly, being approachable. It's all about really having a love in what you do and an interest in what you do as your job.
Yeah, I think as well, you just got to do the simple things well, you know, and I think we often, you know, I'm talking about the industry, I'm talking about Ibex, but, you know, we often forget how to do the simple things well, and we complicate things. So, you know, with a claim, you're only ever as good, your reputation's only ever as good as your last claim. So if you can just set things out simply right at the beginning for your policyholder, even if it's bad news, but you set expectations, you know, there from the beginning, then often you can appease some of the problematic scenarios that you get. And I think we forget to do that because, again, we like to hide behind emails. Sometimes we don't want to pick the phone up and say there's, you know, a bit of bad news. But generally, I think 9 times out of 10, you know, a client, once you explain things properly, even if it is not great news, they, you know, respect what decision has been made. And I think the other kind of problem, again, picking up on the consolidation point, you know, if you, from an insurer's point of view, you know, there's got to be clear communication. So, you know, we act as an MGA for most of our business. So we're representing the insurer. We've got to be able to be seen to be talking to the client. And often, you know, in certain other markets, certainly with some of the brokerage business we do, if the answer's no, the answer's no, and there's no line of communication. Again, I think that's a really bad thing for our industry. It doesn't help.
Yeah, I think communication really is key to everything, isn't it? Having that.
Yeah. I know obviously you're in a lovely sunny climate, unlike ourselves, so that's a good motivation to get out the door in the morning. But,
absolutely.
What else would sort of motivate you just for your day-to-day and work? What would be a good motivation for yourselves?
But again, the kind of people you work with as well. I mean, if you've got a good team around you, and again, a good team that enjoy their job, for me, that's it's a great motivation. And also, a great motivator for me is, someone comes to you with a really difficult problem, is finding a really simple solution, which kind of tends to be a lot like you do, Nigel, quite honest. We come to you with a really big issue, and Covernet always come back with a solution. So, yeah, that's kind of motivates me working with you.
There you go. What a great answer. I think it's very true, and I think we are lucky. We've got a real kind of family feeling firm at Ibex, and even though we've got 9 offices in Spain, 2 offices in the Algarve, and we've got our head office in Gibraltar. So some of those guys, sat in an office in Mallorca, Tenerife, Aruela, Casada, the Algarve. Some are 6 hours drive away, some are 2-hour flight away. We've not been able to see them for the last 15 or 16 months. Now we're starting to see them. The atmosphere is still the same. That loyalty, the company loyalty, the bond that we all have is as strong as it ever has been. So I think that's great. But I think also, we've got long-standing relationships in this business. So you guys we've worked with, 2004 we went live on EDI, August the 3rd. I remember it very well. But we were working together building the system before that. Our Lloyd's brokers we've worked with from day one. We had a relationship with Kiln, until 2019. That was a 19-year relationship. So, there's long friendships that you build, and it's a very nice working environment, working with you guys and working with the other people that we get to work with.
Yeah, I think, well, that's one of the nicest things, I suppose, we have in Covernet as well, is being able to build those relationships and help build up exactly what the customers need and develop the systems. And it's very much, a lot of our ideas are being pulled in from the likes of yourselves, coming to us with problems and getting Nigel and the others to come up with simple solutions for them. So yeah, thanks very much. Do you, apart from obviously each other, do you have any other and Nigel, do you have any other business role models?
Chop me to go on for about 4 hours now.
How long you got?
Yeah, I have. I have a major business role model that I've been following for God knows how long now. But John Timpson of Timpson, the shoe repairers, key cutters, etc., etc. So if anybody that listens to this has not read a book of his, I strongly urge you to do so, because he's got a really interesting life story. So Timpson's was Timpson's the shoe shop, and it was a family business that actually he got kind of elbowed out of at an early part in his career, and then managed to then end up buying that business back after he'd worked for a few other companies along the way. And of course, shoe shops, gosh, they're the thing, maybe. I think a thing of the past, we all need shoes, but the way we've bought them, changes. And so it's quite, and then the business is created, which is a cobbler's and a key cutting shop, is, quite a traditional business, but the way he's managed then to change that business, it's the biggest family, it's the family business still, it's the biggest family business there is, and during that time of him expanding his business, and he's really a humble man. He's had 3 of his own kids, adopted 2 with his wife, his late wife Alex, and fostered over 90 children. So he's done a whole other personal, kind of charitable, humble family man and wife, team. So I think he's great. And so sorry, I'm going to keep going on for a while about this, but Timpsons also own their own properties and holiday villas that they allow staff to go and stay at free. And the way they run the business, there's a whole amazing feel about it. And they take on ex-cons. They go to prison and train people up to become key cutters and cobblers, and rehabilitate them. So I think there's a real nice kind of ethos behind that business.
Mine's a far more sophisticated and shorter, and the Del Boy.
Very good. Yeah, that's the Timpson story is a great story, and lovely to have the the values and the family values been pushed through it, and always looking to help other people improve as well through the business. So it's nice.